Okay, well, thank you so much for doing this. Can you tell us where you're from and where you are right now? Tell us how this journey can tell a little bit about you.
Well, thank you, Mauro. It's a great pleasure, talking to you on this interesting podcast. I'm a guy from the Middle East. I'm a Jordanian from a Palestinian origin. I was born in Kuwait, but most of my life lived in Jordan in Amman. It's in the heart of you know the whole political turmoils that we've been seeing for the past 40 years. I was born in 79, which is was the most peculiar year that our region witnessed, where the Iranian Revolution started. Saddam Hussein came to the rule. A great incident of co-op that happened in Mecca the same year. The Afghanistan war started. All of this, like it's where the point where we started to see the rise of political religion, especially Islamist, started to grow in the region due to the let's say impact that happened uh, in the Iranian Revolution, and you know and the continuous conflict between liberalism and socialism. And it was obviously uh, some sort of dynamics that happened, where in the 80s we've witnessed what we call the rise of political Islam, which until today we're suffering from the consequences of that era. I've lived during the Iraqi war, all the wars that happened in the region, the Arab Spring, and all of these kind of things. So, but nevertheless, Jordan has been a very stable place in the middle of all these crises. The Arab-Israeli conflict, the Iraqi war, the Syrian, all of these kind of conflicts that happened around us. So this is where I come from, and it's a very interesting place where we have a lot of action happening.
Well, South America as well. But now you are in Dubai.
Yes, I moved in Dubai in 2016 to expand my business. Dubai is one of the fastest growing economically and technologically cities and places in the region. So it is the all the regional offices from all global companies are based in Dubai. Uh, it's a very well advanced city. It has a great infrastructure. It has so much advanced technology, even in terms of government. They look for the future. They are ahead of their time, and within a very short time, they put themselves on the map among the biggest, cities in the world. It became a destination for so many people who would like to have a great business and look into the future. And actually, in this year, they are going to organize the Expo 2020. It was 2020, but because of the pandemic, it will happen in 2021. So it's a massive global event uh, that the city is looking for.
Great. So, coming from where you came and being where you are right now, would you say that the world is getting better or worse?
Well, this is a very difficult question, especially to ask someone who's overthinker. So I tend not to go into one side or another. There are some areas where the world is getting better, and there are some areas where the world is getting worse. Uh, and it's a continuous dynamic. Uh, and for me, I think the world is becoming more complicated, and I think the survival issue has become uh, uh, much difficult. But honestly, I think the pandemic gave us some sort of a wake up call for humanity to look into what is important and what is not important in our life. We're chasing the wrong thing, and now I think with the pandemic, people are more real and people are more awake of what is important in their life and what's worth it or not. So the value of life, the value of friendship, the value of relationship, the value of living a good life has completely changed during the pandemic. And people used to work for so many long hours, forgetting about themselves, forgetting about their relationship, forgetting about their what makes them really happy, and chasing things that they thought it's make them happy. But still, the world is getting more complicated because it's now in a changing transformation stage from our level. Like, even if we're going to talk about economy, oil is not going to be the most important thing in life. So new energy sources are coming. So the whole economy is changing. New power are rising. Uh, People are going more into the virtual world. Even money is changing through cryptocurrencies and through blockchain. Uh, so many things are changing, honestly. So I cannot be sure if it's going to be better or worse, but I think we are now in a changing uh, stage phase where people realize that we cannot things cannot be the same as before, and we were forced for that change and transformation.
So I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm wondering if, when you think about these things, if you try to use any metric, right, and something more objective, because I do that a lot, and
Yeah.
and of course those metrics can be important, and even if you have a metric that someone doesn't like, it is easier for to have a discussion over the metric than over the feeling. Like, yes, the world is getting better or worse. Like you said, it's difficult to say, but if we look at, I don't know, child mortality, well, it's getting better. But then you can say, okay, but that's not the only thing. If we look at democracy, is it getting better or worse? And all this kind of thing. How do you, like an artist, look at these things? Do you get attached to the metrics or
Yeah,
not?
metrics are very important, Mauro. I think yes, metrics can give you some indication, but it doesn't give you uh, the decision of this is good or bad, because it depends from what position you're talking about, Mauro. Because what is good from your perspective is not necessarily good from my perspective. Okay, so good or bad, this is going to be always a decision from the eye of, or from the perspective of the beholder, in my opinion. But you can measure so many things. You can measure health metrics, you can measure economical metrics, you can measure whatever metrics you would like to measure. But at the end of the day, what makes it good or bad is the position. Where are you talking from? Which position? Okay. Talking about politics, talking about democracy, what do you mean by democracy? Is it the American democracy? Is it the European democracy? Well, there's a lot of part of the world, like, billions of people don't believe in democracy as the right way to rule, and they believe that there are other ways of organizing ourselves as human beings. Science is questioning the democracy as a concept as well. So I think it's way much complicated than we're thinking. It is. I think metrics can measure the changes that is happening in a period of time, but at the end of the day, all the decision and the perception comes from the individuals or from the high to decide whether it's good for them or bad.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I'm clear about
No, it's well, that's the point. It's just to have the discussion. I don't want to, we don't have to decide what it's good and what it's bad. But while you were talking, it reminded me of one metric that I read about, that it's very interesting, related to the environment. So there are some economic studies that shows that until the per capita income of a population is over $4,000, the concerns about the environment, they are not, that population doesn't care about the environment as much, right? So in a way, these Kuznets curves applied to the environment, they show you that, okay, you have to solve some basic needs, or then we can discuss what a basic need is. But let's say there is, for different people, priorities, exactly. So a hierarchy of things, and
the environment is the top luxurious kind of priority, where
where
societies,
sewage problem and child mortality are solved, then you can worry about the environment.
Yeah, actually,
and you can say, like, this is good or bad, but this is going to change from population to population. So the way that people prioritize is influenced by their culture, their current status and everything.
Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, now currently in Jordan, we have a huge discussion. Jordan is a very, it's like, it's considered a poor country in terms of economically. We don't have resources, and it is based on foreign aids. But now there is a huge discussion in Jordan. For example, there is a natural reservation, and one of the uniquest natural reservation in the region, and it's basically globally registered as a very unique reservation. The government, they're trying to excavate copper, and they decided to take, like, a big chunk of the land. I think 60 kilometers from that reservation to do mining for copper. And now there is a huge debate in Jordan about this, where some people, they say, okay, this is one of the uniquest natural reserves, and this is a national treasure, and we should not touch it. And the other part is basically saying, we're poor, and we need this mining, and we need to feed ourselves before we're talking about trees, couple of trees and couple of natural ecosystem. And if you look at, uh, I don't have the data actually, but if you look at the social media, you will see that um, people who's basically on the lower kind of status, social status, as like economical status, is basically they don't care about preservation. The other part is basically the more educated and more economically better are fighting fiercely to save the reservation. But both of them, they agree that even if there is a lot of copper and there's millions of dollars that will come to the country, uh, due to corruption, we as people will not get benefit from it. So again, as you mentioned, the priority depends on the economical situation. Uh, so some, as a humans looking for survival, we try to arrange our priorities in different ways. Like if so, it's part of we as Homo sapiens, how we try to survive and how do we protect ourselves and how we measure risks. So it depends on how risk you're facing. So if you're facing a risk of getting hungry and not eating the next day, okay, it's different than you know you have everything and you're looking for the down the road of 50 years, 100 years down the road. So yeah.
Yes. And so, like, what are the biggest challenges ahead? Because we can already have a sense of the answer based on the last question. It's interesting how you talk about, okay, some people are worried about generating income. Some people are worried about, let's say, some people are worried about the short term. Some people are worried about the long. Some people can afford be worried about the long term in terms of this reservation in Jordan, but both agree that corruption is going to eat whatever benefit that they have. So would you say that how do you see these challenges ahead of us? And when I say us, you can of course pick one example again to discuss. But when I say us, I think more about like the world, mankind, humanity, or better, humanity.
For me, I think the case of pandemic uh, is really something that we need to study and look into, because suddenly we were living a normal life and we found ourselves in a situation, in a very threatening situation where everything has stopped. And for the first time, it's not only one country, one nation, one area, it's the whole globe that we share the same suffer. Okay. It showed how much we're vulnerable, how much we everything that we've built could crumble within a few seconds. Our life could change in a matter of few days, few years. It's a shared risk or threat that all humanity witnessed together. And if we look at how we reacted against it, like you see how much it shaped a lot of systems, a lot of norms, and most importantly, it showed how much there is a gap and trust between people and the ruling systems in worldwide, with different variation. Also against so many challenges, like at the beginning, there was so many doubts about, and so many conspiracy theories happened and so many question marks until today, actually, until today. From the beginning of the pandemic until today now regarding the vaccine, there's a lot of people they think it's like a hoax or conspiracy or a global conspiracy or so many issues. And the idea of trust uh, became the most challenging issue that humanity is facing now. I think
Oh, I think you
you
gave
know,
a great answer already. Trust may be the biggest
yeah,
challenge that we are
trust, but
facing.
yeah, we even have doubts on ourselves. Also, Mauro, yani, I'm sure that staying at home, some people lost their job, some people, they uh, they they have so many things. They lost their loved ones. It was a shock, okay, for everyone, and we lived in fears. The news, the media, all of these kind of it's like a global trauma, okay. And I think now we should take care more about the mental health of humanity. I think it should rise into the top priorities of what we should put it as a threat or risk for our survival, because we still did not see the consequences of this pandemic, later on. I'm not sure of, how people would go back and live their life again, but, the deep, deep, deep impact on their psychological, back mindset. We don't know the impact, the real impact of what this made for us. Even yani, it affected everything: our relationship, our political scene, our economical scene. Um, so yeah, I think the biggest challenge now is healing from what happened in the pandemic. Uh, and I'm not sure, we really need as humanity to rethink our priorities. Um, Again,
But you said something very interesting. Like I didn't think about how everything that we were living in before the pandemic, in terms of the difficulties with governments, with economy and everything. But maybe we had self confidence. You didn't doubt yourself so much, and this crisis made us uh, start to doubt ourselves more, and maybe this healing has to start with getting some more self-confidence. Even though, and what I think it's interesting is because when you go to social media, you actually don't see people doubting themselves, right? You do see a lot of polarization.
yeah,
But I think that, if you look in between the lines, or if you go to the if you allow yourself a layer of interpretation over this polarization, it's probably the effect of this doubting yourself, right? And we don't like to be in doubt, so we choose whatever option is available. We have to choose among the options available to us, and this choice maybe is not really intelligent, but it
I
can be
think
just fruit of what are the options available, and this leads to a polarization that is not really it doesn't tell the real story. The real story is probably more about people doubting themselves than people having all this conviction that they show on social media.
yeah, yani, I do agree with you. Polarization is a consequences of a much deeper problem. Uh, when you lose meaning, the the purpose and meaning, when things became vague, when things became uncertain, you started to feel more and more threat and risk into your survival, and you start to look into place where you need to position yourself where you feel safe, okay. And basically, uh, you go back to all your previous convictions and previous um ground that you start from, and you start defending it because now everything is shaky. Okay, and I think this is because of the feeling of the risk on what you believe in is becoming higher and higher, and people started to question things that they never asked before, uh, and this polarization is definitely due to the lack of trust. It's not only between government and people, between people themselves as well. And this is where it leads to more and more polarization. Um, I can give you a lot of examples, sociopolitical examples that is happening in our region, like, for example, the crisis that is happening in Lebanon. Okay, it's basically due to the lack of trust between different parties, that led to more and more polarization, that led more and more into economical crisis, and more into disruption, and they are facing a huge kind of uh, uh, deep social issues and political issues and economical issues due to that. There's so many examples in our region. Actually, what happened during the Arab Spring um created a lot of polarization in the Arab world that we've never seen before. And I think if I wanna, this is why I told you it's more becoming more and more complicated, because more and more, technology, life advancement, communication, social media, you name it, all of these kind of changes that we see, the consequences of this advancement has created uh, uh, a lot of changes in the mindset of people, where we started to question the grounds of our beliefs again, and this led into the loss of meaning in a way or another. And when you lose the sense of meaning, uh, here where it becomes tricky for humanity as well, and here where you see there is some sort of a chaotic form of relationship between each other, because at one point of time, humanity, when civilization started, uh, religion took a really very powerful role to create meaning for humanity for a long time. Now, with this technological advancement, and with all what we're seeing, and with capitalism, and with and then ideologies replaced religion for a long time. Uh, and now we see that ideologies are crumbling, and it doesn't have the same impact as it used to have during the 60s and 70s post Second World War. Now, I think that there is a huge gap in people's mindset of what is going to fill or replace, okay, religion and ideologies with the new generation, that they don't have a much belief, or they question everything that is related to religion and ideologies, that with all this kind of connections and technological advancement that we're seeing. So I think this is one of the issues and consequences that science and technology has created for humanity.
Yes, I agree with you. It's a criticism that about science that I hear and read a lot is this: we took the meaning and we didn't replace it with anything. Even though I could argue that it was a fake meaning, right?
maybe
It was a fake
maybe,
meaning.
but
Can you? So maybe the thing is, can you enjoy life without the need of meaning? But I want to ask another question. Well, of these challenges, this challenge that you so clearly talked about, do you see things that you are doing and that you want to do in the future related to this specific big challenge? Do they have a connection? You are in this interface of arts and engineering, and you created a media company. You know a lot about how to communicate to people in a entertaining but meaningful way at the same time. How do you see these competences of yours and the things that you want to do and now and in the future connected with these big challenges ahead, and maybe this specific big challenge of trust, meaning, and self-confidence?
well, Mauro, let me tell you something. For me, I'm not good at giving answers, honestly, and I don't think I want to give answers. What I want to do is I want to provoke questions, and I want to keep asking questions. I want to spread these questions because the more we ask, because we are curious kind of creatures, and this is who we are, and this is what makes us. And I think we need more thinking along the way. And I do believe that, humanity, when civilization started, philosophy was the core thing of sciences that, humanity worked on a lot and focused a lot. And then, I don't know, within the hundreds of years and thousands of years that went along, uh, we lost this kind of importance for philosophy. And I think there should be a time where philosophy should come back as a necessity. And this is where okay, science and philosophy can work together to fill the gap that we talked about. But I think to start with this movement, I think we need to start asking more and more questions, and we need to highlight these questions, and we need to provoke these questions. And this is where where I see myself could have value as a media person, is basically keep asking these questions and keep spreading these questions, and not give. It's not my job to give answers. Honestly, my job um, is to keep asking these questions and provoke people to think and to think together and create conversations.
And what
Uh,
is the question then to ask right now?
Well, we've talked about it. My now in my life, I'm in my middle age crisis. So my main question is meaning, honestly, Mauro. And I'm in a stage where I'm really evaluating, especially in my region and especially with humanity, of why we're doing all this shit. Honestly, why? You know, why we're fucking collecting monies and taking monies, why we're fucking creating weapons. Sorry, I'm just getting off script, but yeah, we're creating weapons. Still Russia and China and US are competing with creating weapons, and they're not using it, they're giving it to us to give them money, more money, and then I don't know where this more money goes, and we kill each other and we fight, and we keep fighting and we keep. I'm not sure why we're doing all this crap shit. Why we work 24 hours? Why people? I think we reached a level where people live to work not work to live. Okay. And what if I don't work? And what if I don't have money? Why I'm not being able to survive? And if I want to survive, why I need to survive? Why I create family? Why do I need to love? Why do so many questions, Mauro? Okay,
So
I'm
many
digging.
questions.
Why we're doing all this shit? Why can't we live like other animals? Simple, like eat, enjoy life, and try not to kill each other. It's like simple as this.
Well, you may have a romanticized view of how simplistic the life of other animals is.
No, it's
As a
not simple.
biologist, I
It's not
can tell
simple.
you that
It's not. I
not
know
that
it's not simple.
it's
It's a
not that
survival battle.
well. The surviving battle may be like much, maybe a bigger hustle
We could be like
than
trees.
ours.
We could be like trees, I guess.
So, where can people go on the internet to find more about you and the work that you do? Do you have your website? Which social media you are more present at?
Well, yeah, I'm. um well, actually, for the past few years, I'm trying to make myself off the grid. Uh, but I do have a presence on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. But for me, uh, uh, I don't think I'm in the mood of sharing my wisdom to the world, because you know I think there's a lot of people sharing their wisdoms. I don't want to add to the suffering of humanity, of adding more and more unnecessary wisdoms. The more you know, the more you read, Mauro, you feel more that you're more ignorant. The more I read, the more I understand, the more question I have, the more self-doubt I have, honestly. Uh, so this made me less active on social media. This made me less reactive on what is happening. I'm always taking a pause, thinking of what's happening, thinking of many factors of not being so reactive about certain news, certain issues, certain incident, and wait a little bit more and understand more of what is happening, instead of adding to the problem, adding to the chaos that is happening on social media. So yeah, I'm still there as an observer mostly. From time to time I ask some questions, but not active as before.
Okay. So the last three questions, like not necessarily on the same topic as before. Oh, the first one, I see that you have a shelf with a lot of books behind you. Which book are you reading right now?
Which book I think I read most of them here.
No, but which one you're reading right now? No, like.
No, the last one I read this Stephen Hawkins. It's been actually because of the vacation. It's been a month since I read book, but the last one I was reading this one.
Great.
Yeah,
And the second question is, do you have long or short lunch breaks?
Do I have long or short? No, I have short because I tend to eat fast.
Okay.
I'm not
So
living a quality life.
well, that's a little bit the answer is supposed to be a proxy for exactly, like the how do you divide your time, and how do you live your life. The last question is, last but not least, Bitcoin. Are you a believer or a non-believer?
Well, I do believe that Bitcoin is changing the world of economy. I am a believer on it, but honestly, my my partner is also fanatic about Bitcoin and is doing a lot of trading, and he's doing strategies of trading, and he's investing a lot of time. And my friends, they have Bitcoin groups or cryptocurrency groups where they discuss Bitcoin. And actually, I'm consulting for a TV station, and one of the ideas that I'm giving them is to create a TV show for cryptocurrencies. So, in terms of belief, I do believe. In terms of practice, I'm not practicing. I'm not into practicing any field of Bitcoin simply because
Do you have any?
no, I still didn't start my trading or my work in cryptocurrency.
You don't have to trade, you just have to keep. But it's
Yeah, well, basically keep or trade. I'm not good businessman, honestly, and my priority in life is not is not money actually. At this stage in my life, although it's very important because I have family to feed, but I've always been not good in money, so this is why I have really good partners, business partners. So I always think of concepts and ideas, and I'm not business. I'm really bad
great.
at this, Mauro. I need some time to get into that.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Um,
It was a pleasure talking to
Offline.
you, Mauro, and my best regard to your fans and listeners. And if any one of you guys want to come to Dubai, please let me know. We could grab some coffee or something together.
Great.